Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are reviewing a Diamond Doomfist. And if you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, promos, special events we have going on. Speaking of which, we do have server scrims, or pugs, going on. We're doing the Doomfist hover trick. Okay. We do have server scrims coming up. If you would be interested in those this weekend, you can, in the Discord, react to let me know your availability. So, we do cool events like this. You want to be a part of it.
Attackers incoming. Stop the payload.
Stifler's mom on blue team. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Stifler's mom. Yeah, there we go. American Pie reference. I mean, you can fight the opposing Doomfist. So, like, here we are. Let's set this up. Here you're ready to fish for a quick punch into the wall, sure. You don't get it, so you're gonna leave. Forces you onto the low ground, but we'll deal. You're having to play around the fact that you're down one. We'll hope this game picks up a bit. Doomed probably isn't the one you want to go for there. Okay. That's fine. It's a garbage engage. You're down a person. Okay.
Name's McCree.
Stifler's mom is over on McCree now. Perfect review for someone like me. Okay, okay. 848 Mike. Probably busy since she hasn't even chosen a character yet. Yeah, yeah. Well, now over on Cree, but hey. That wasn't amazing. Like, you chose to punch in here. You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait. You do not want to go in here. You just put your punch on cooldown. It's not now time to go in on this, because if you now go in on this, you now uppercut, and now you're just gonna hang in the air with airtime and 2 seconds left on your punch cooldown to get out. Like, it's just luck if you don't get eliminated right now. There really wasn't a good reason. Like, it was okay to punch in. I don't mind that you rounded this corner punch to see if someone was here that you could pick off, but it means you've now got to sort of twiddle your thumbs out of line of sight using cover for just like 1.5 seconds before you go in with your other two abilities. Your punch doesn't have to be fully back, but your punch has to be to the point where it's effectively going to be back after you've used your slam uppercut. And it's not right now. You've got more than 1.5 seconds left. I'd blame Doomfist trying to win versus the pocketed Doomfist. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was 5v5. You could say it's premature engage from the tanks, but, like, it was always going to be premature engage from the tanks because they were always going to be down a person. But yeah, they saw that Doomfist used abilities, and they probably thought, oh, it's time to engage, but Doomfist was really going fishing. Doomfist was going, hey, I'm going to go fishing to try to even this out from us being down someone. Didn't get it, so the preference would have been wait for his next cooldown cycle and take the re-engage from there. That said, at that point, positioning was going to be iffy for everyone, and it was still going to be a 6v5. But yes, the tanks didn't really recognize that he was fishing and he was out and he didn't need help. You're rushing it again. You rushed it on your re-engage. You're still a second out on slam. Okay, hit your slam. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you getting down here? And then you uppercutted while he's under here? You can't. Like, even if you get him here, you're then going to be stuck trying to line of sight around this thing until any of your cooldowns are back, which is going to be an eternity. This just doesn't work. Like, you rushed this engage, you just needed to wait up here. You were going to always have these supports. Just wait up here like an extra second for your slam to be back, and then slam, uppercut, punch out. Like, and then you get to wait again and do the same thing. You just didn't have any need to, like, fall down to here and try to bounce on this and hit your slam from here. No. Could you see them making another character like Doom for Overwatch 2 that is so ability-based, or do you think this is not something they want to try again? I could see them doing a big ability-based character like Doom again. I don't know that they do quite the, like... Doomfist is a little different. Like, a character can be super ability-based without being Doomfist. Let me think for a moment. Like, Hammond is pretty darn ability-based. Yes, Hammond has a left click, don't get me wrong, but Hammond is a pretty overwhelmingly ability-based character, but he still feels pretty different than Doom. I don't know if we're going to see something that feels like Doom again, but I think heavily ability-based characters are absolutely on the table. The game has moved more and more towards MOBA-ish roots as opposed to FPS roots, which is fine. It's had moments where its FPS roots have come back through, and it still has lots and lots of FPS stuff in it, but I don't think they're going to shy away from, oh, we can't do an ability-based character again. Like, no, ability-based characters are fine.
My ultimate is charging.
I watch your VOD reviews while at work. If Tracer doesn't have blanks, she's in trouble. Yeah, I get that, Anton. That's when I'm streaming, is when a lot of people are at work. I'm sort of the daytime entertainment here. Doom is just free ult charge when he has no abilities, though. He is the extreme end of ability versus weapon, but so is Hammond. Like, Sombra, in theory, counters abilities, and Sombra, two of the people who would say that they complain about Sombra loudest or are most countered, quote-unquote, by Sombra would be Doomfist and Hammond. So...
Meteor strike ready to be unleashed.
My thanks.
Oh, I'm on the wrong Doomfist. Okay.
Meteor strike.
Cool. So, like, here you are, and I'm good with this. And, it sucks. You got hit back, whatever, but you uppercut up, and we just punch out. Like, you just have to punch out and leave. That's all. What are you doing? Why are you hanging? Like, I don't know why you were giving yourself hang time. There was no one you were fighting in the air. You hadn't, like, uppercutted someone up with you that you were like, yeah, pop, pop, while they were in the air. Like, since you hadn't, there's not a good reason to hang in the air. Just punch out and leave, and then wait over here for abilities to come back. You are not like I gotta stay in and get max left-click value. Like, that's not what Doomfist is. We were just talking about that with chat here. Like, you are about your abilities, and when your abilities are on cooldown, you just have to accept that there's not a ton you can do. And so don't risk your life, go take cover. Nordstorm says, my job has a lot of downtime waiting for things to break, and it's very nice to be able to watch the world during his downtime. Right. No, that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm going for, like, the daytime at work, but more of an on-call type thing, or can do stuff in the background type thing. Like, that's who I expect can watch my stuff. Or people who, just don't have standard 9-to-5 schedules. But hey. Have some good entertainment options out there that aren't the standard after-work hours. I mean, I guess you can go fishing. You need to punch out, though. No, you can't slam in. What exactly is your plan? 5, 6, and 2. That's where your cooldowns are. So your next out is up in 2 seconds. And you... I mean, I can't even call it... You're in the middle of the enemy team with 5 sets of eyeballs looking at you. No. Stop it. You need more patience than this. Like, it's not even you need more patience than this, though. Yes, that's true, but you need to recognize that you have to have an ability to get out. The only time you get to get away with not having an ability to get out is when you're floating your ultimate, and you can use your ultimate, especially with the Doomfist buff, to recharge your abilities while you're ulting, to then go back in and do it all over again. You can't keep doing this like, I'm going to use all of my abilities, or I'm going to use 2 abilities to go in, and then I'm bored, so I'm going to use my 3rd ability, or not use my 3rd ability quickly enough to get out. Like, get out. Feels like Blue Doom is just not quite in phase with Red Doom, but keeps trying. Feels like Red Doom is in Blue Doom's head. Could be, could be. I mean, I like that you were trying to angle out there, but that's sort of like an issue of last resort, and you didn't have to be in a last resort situation. You put yourself in it.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Okay. You went for the high ground, I like it. But now you need to leave. And you hit the wall. You just hit the wall, that's a mechanical failure. You had the right idea to try to engage from above him. That's fine. And the reason I don't mind you finishing him with punch there, it's like, oh no, this is your last ability and all of your stuff is on cooldown. Yeah, but you're in a totally safe space. Like, you finished him with this ability and you're completely isolated. The rest of his team can't get you or anything back here. So that's why this is okay. Do a little bit of cooldown waiting. Okay. You're fine. You're up. So this was fine. You're going in. You're slamming, and your punch will be back by the time you need it to get out. And you get caught with sleep, and that's just life sometimes. There was plenty of distraction to believe that you could get away with this, and I'm still not convinced that you're going to get punished because you've taken down their defense, their Doomfist. Your team is pushing into them in some way. Like, you're probably doomed. I mean, you know, you've got the, hey, there's the sleep dart, there's the shatter, but your team, you can reasonably expect to push into this and get value. So I'm not worried even if this one goes wrong. Are you going to queue immediately? No. Slide. Team's going to play passive. Unfortunate. Even though everything has gone wrong for you this match, and most of it has been of your own creation, that engage was fine. Tomb just channel your inner Chipsa? Maybe not, maybe not. Okay. What was your plan? Oh, your plan was to use your ult. So here you are. Like, let's just do the whole engage here. You do this. You don't want to manually take high ground, so you slam here. And this is kind of awkward, because you got an elimination with your slam, which means no one's really in range for you to uppercut to get value out of, so if you punch at someone, you're going to be in a situation where, okay, if I punch at them, I'm then only going to have uppercut to get out. Slam takes forever to come back on cooldown. Uppercut isn't really great for getting out by itself, and you don't have anyone in range to uppercut. So what's the solution here? Well, it's actually pretty simple. The solution is to get back behind cover, climb up here, and wait for your cooldowns to come back, and then do it again. It really is. Now, you can do this, but I don't really want to invest my ult here. We've already won this fight. We're already up. We're already up. We've already won this fight. No problem. Staggers would be great, but I don't really want to use my punch here to get in, to uppercut. That was never going to finish anyone. I might finish someone if I'd hit them with my punch, but I was never going to finish them with my uppercut, and I was never going to get out with this. So, like, I was basically playing around, or if I was you, and I'm not obviously, I would have been playing around, well, I hope my ult is going to come back. Like, no, this is not what we want to do. You forced your own ultimate when your team was up by 2. Not worth it.
Meteor strike.
And we didn't get the Zen because we had no health. Okay. Unfortunate. We're rushing things. And that's, again, rushing things. You're already winning. Just stabilize.
I'm not even close to done.
Yeah.
Fire at will.
Rolled so satisfying. Yeah.
Is approaching its destination.
You'll stabilize. It's fine. I'm really not convinced you wanted to tell the Zarya you were here yet. Okay, you got the health back. Like, this Zarya doesn't know you're here. And you're like screaming at her, I'm here, and spending shots. You're going for this. Again, she doesn't know you're here, and you've chosen to force this engagement. You go with the uppercut, which is an interesting choice, into the slam, and you do deny the health back, and I appreciate that. But now this is an all-in. You either hit the punch, or you get out with the punch. If you miss the punch, this is going to be really bad. And you hit the punch, so you're potentially still in this, but we didn't really hit her into anything. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But again, you didn't like have to start that engagement. You didn't have to poke at her to tell you were there. You didn't have to punch to get in when she wasn't even aware that you were there. You could have walked up to her. She wasn't looking at you. Yeah, he is kind of hard. But yeah, it can be fun to watch. I understand, Anton. Zen found his own little window to play through. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Cool. What are you doing? What are you doing? Angle. Angle deeper. You still can't go in yet. You don't have your abilities, so you shouldn't be hanging out here. You should just be angling deeper still. Get a better angle on your opponents. Why? Why are you punching from what's similar to your team's angle when you could have been from over here? Or if you were really bored, could have been from over here. Like, angles still matter for you. Oh, look, she was able to pay attention to you. Anna wouldn't have been able to pay attention to you. She's watching you. See how she has to look back and check on her Hanzo here and do things like this? Like, Anna's a hero that has to keep an eye on her team. She can't afford to constantly watch the flanks. Can't afford to constantly watch people that are a threat to her. So, like, if you come in from angles, you can get her. If you come in from the same direction as the team that she's already staring at, she does this to you. Get a deeper angle and just stare at them from behind a corner. Mental pressure, only half joking. Right, it is only half joking. Like, that's a real thing. The enemy having to calculate for the fact that there's a Doomfist behind us, or there's a Doomfist at a 90-degree angle to us. He could come in at any time. He's still alive. He could come in 3 seconds. That is taking some of their mental calculating power, some of their mental awareness to continue to track you. I mean, I'd probably just engage them from behind, but okay. Your team's gonna let him in, that's fine. Better.
Just what I
Sure. Sure. Great.
heal me. Thanks. Rising above.
You're gonna duck right. That's just challenging, but that's okay.
No, I keep you here.
Patience. Patience. Okay. You're gonna either go after the Doomfist or the Hanzo. Or, excuse me, the Zen or the Hanzo. No, you're actually gonna go after the Doomfist. Okay, cool. You're gonna slam him, but it's because you have nowhere else to go. Good. Didn't really need to punch through that. Could have just walked.
That's better.
And I don't really want you to be back here anyways. I wanted you to walk and get the health back and then still be here where you have the better angle and the better high ground for re-engaging once your cooldowns are back. But okay.
30 seconds remaining.
Okay, Anton. Okay.
Thank you.
10 seconds remaining.
They're almost out of time. Don't
It's fine, you have plenty of health. It's only okay because you have your ult, and it's last fight. Okay, so two biggest things for you so far are your patience is just lacking. You use abilities to move around, and then when there's no particular rush for you to engage, you rush the engage and then don't have your abilities, which is a problem for our highly ability-based hero. Like, that's one big thing that we're going to run into. And the other big thing is you're just like, you don't want to leave. You're like, oh, I'm in the fight, I'm doing this, and you don't want to leave. And it's like, no, use one of your abilities to leave. Again, you don't need to rush it. Like, oh, you got an elimination with your slam, but you still want to use uppercut? Too bad. Get out and wait. And then once you have slam back, you can use it again. Because you're not going to be able to, if you use punch, you're not going to be able to use slam to get out. So, like, these are the two big things. But we'll see how it continues.
Only through conflict will we evolve.
Bloss says, not sure any female on the planet would leave anyone for chips up. Okay, okay.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Anna Amari, I hate to see your talents wasted.
Ready for battle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Escort the payload.
Escorting the payload.
Okay. He's paying attention. Don't push it. Now push it. Right idea. How are you gonna get out? So here you are. This timing is totally reasonable. Timing is totally reasonable. I don't have an issue. Didn't hit him. You're kind of done. You kind of are. As soon as you slam back in, you're stuck. You are stuck in this fight, and you don't have a particularly high probability of taking him out. Like, you do that. I'm glad that we did take him out, but what are you going to do? Like, that was a total all-in when there was very little need for it to be.
Rethinking your life.
Okay, you'll have your abilities back in a second. I can deal. Yep. Don't force it.
Stay down.
Cover. Oh, cool. Worst thing they can do to you here is have Zarya lob right clicks at you. That's acceptable. They're going to spend all this attention on you while your team is pushing Cart, while your team is pushing their Reinhardt. That's cool with you. I'm getting vibes. I'm getting a lot of play safer, value your own life vibes. Doom is so annoying to flash this crate. Okay.
Payload is on its way.
Okay. You just have to wait. You can't engage. Cool. Cool, and now you're going to punch yourself off here. And now you have to back. 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 You tried. The problem with punching into someone there is you stop moving as soon as you hit someone, and they weren't going to hit a wall, and that leaves you stuck in the middle.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
I have a feeling this guy is like the Diamond Ryan from OpenQ, who Temporal said played like he was low plat. We'll see. We'll see. The other Doomfist may have just like tilted him like, oh, there's another Doomfist and I have to do this. Like, he could just be in a little bit of a tilt spiral. He might normally play a bit better than this. But I agree, this doesn't look like a normal 3200 Doomfist. But that could just be, you know, this game. They might usually play better than this.
Payload's moving out.
Yeah, that was fun, Blah.
Bomb is charging.
So here we are. Before you engage, turn and look at your team. These guys are distracted by your team. Yes, that's a real thing, and that's cool. But if you think about this, your team is already down 2 people. Your team is not actually going to be pushing these guys hard. So if you go in, these guys can easily turn all of their attention to dealing with you. And if they do, they'll probably survive. You might get eliminated, and your team isn't terribly likely to get an elimination in exchange or because they've turned all of their attention to you. So this isn't really an engage we want. It's just that simple. We don't want to go in. It might seem like, oh, it looks like it. They're distracted. They're pushing forward. It's a squishy backline. But your team just isn't really in good enough shape. Mm-hmm.
Ultimate is almost ready.
Meteor strike.
It just has become taken less seriously, Celeste. I mean, yes, less people do play it. I don't know that it's inflated because less people play it. I would say it is likely inflated because people take it less seriously. It has become determined by the community that roll queue is the real version of the ladder, and because of that, people are more willing to fool around in open queue. Like, there's always going to be some level of what does the community decide is the serious thing. And you see that in other games too, where like is Party Finder or Group Finder the real level versus the pug thing, or the try hard versus the whatever. Like, that stuff exists differently in different gaming communities. And for Overwatch, it's become clear that the community has decided roll queue is the real place, and open queue, well, they're just gonna fool around in open queue. And I'm sure that's encouraged by the fact that you can lock in 60 PS. He posted, okay, so to give people context, I have the feeling this guy is like the Diamond Ryan from OpenQ, who Temporal said played like he was low plat. I mean, in regular queue, yeah, who rejected Temporal's coaching and asked for someone to rate him that was familiar with the suicidal Ryan play. And to be fair, guys, I wasn't like that harsh on him. Like, I would understand if I was just like, you're terrible, that someone would generally reject it. I wasn't really that harsh on him. I just pointed out that he was on his way down, and you could see that on his screen that he pulled up and showed us, because it was a recorded YouTube VOD that he'd started, you know, at one point, and he was on his way down, and you could see that he was barely hanging on to Diamond and on his way down. Anyway, doesn't matter. He posted another video with some bad Ryan play titled Forced Loss 3.2. No idea how this guy, okay, and then after quotes, no idea how this guy is the rank he is. We have been coached to understand that scrims, yeah, and that's correct. Scrims, roll, open, and that's open queue, because open division would be rather than this, and then tournament or, officials. So there you go. Okay. Kongboom asks, is it ever valuable in that situation where your team is not pushing to try and get a trade since they have a longer path from spawn? Sure, it can be valuable. It can absolutely be valuable to go fishing. And Doomfist is one of the heroes that can go fishing. Doomfist can go fishing. Hog can occasionally do it. Widow, Ashe, Hanzo. You can absolutely go, hey, I have extremely high pickoff potential, so I'm willing to peek into a 4v6. I'm willing to peek into a 3v6. I'm willing to peek into a team and just try to fish for an elimination real quick. You can absolutely do that. That's not by any means out of the question some impossible play. And as you saw, this Doomfist did try and did ultimately get out alive. But you do have to go like, well, how risky is it? And it's a little more risky for Doomfist than it is for, say, Widow or Hanzo to go fishing for a moment. Like, for them, it's just a peek and 1 to 2 quick shots. For Doomfist, he actually goes in and uses his abilities and has to get out. So it's a how much attention can how quickly be forced on him. Is not having your cooldowns going to slow down your team's next push because you won't have your cooldowns to sync with them, or they're going to have to wait on your cooldowns? And how vulnerable is the team you're going after? Can you find a small cluster to go on that's hard to support, etc.? So there's a balance to be had, but yes, sometimes it's worth it, Kongaboom. Why y'all talking about me on his way down? Gets up to 3.2, lol. Why y'all talking about me on his way down? Gets up to 3.2. I got some more VODs for you to coach, Temporal. I don't know who you are, Zero Frequency. Are you the Reinhardt from OpenQ that Blah was talking about here? Or are you the Doomfist here? Because this is like a 3.2 Doomfist VOD, and I'm not saying that this Doomfist is necessarily on the way down. I think this Doomfist probably, if they're at 3.2, usually has better games. But I don't know that. I had extra context clues for the Reinhardt that I was talking about. It's good for a Doomfist to not get scouted on his way to dive the backline. That is true. That makes sense. Thank you. No problem, Kongaboom. And I'm not like starving for VODs to review or anything, Zero Frequency. If you want me to review VODs, I can probably do that, but you're probably going to have to pay me because that is the business model. Oh, you're the OpenQ Ryan. Okay, well, I mean, you would have to pay me for me to review more of your VODs. That is how this works, and I'm not really interested in doing more reviews for you without compensation. But if you have any questions or anything, you can throw them up in chat. If you get like super trolly or something, I might ignore you, but I'm happy to have a bit of a discussion to answer any questions while you're here and can ask, and we can go back and forth pretty quickly. Okay, we're pushing up our angle. Okay, let's get back here. So, you're choosing to engage. You're choosing to engage a little bit early. You're choosing to engage from the front. That said, the front is a little bit of an off angle and your Zarya's in. It's not amazing. Like, your whole team looks like they may be a little bit on tilt with the engagement timing here, but in you go. Walk out, sure. You can do this, but you can also just make your angle deeper, and I'd prefer you just make your angle deeper over here. Okay.
Form up on the payload.
On me.
Move it out.
Okay. Okay. So I see it. Where's your team? Is your team just to the right of your screen, heavily threatening this team? Is your team back in spawn? Is your team at the mega behind you? Did your team just push into second? This is a very important question for you to have the answer to, and I don't think you do right now. Your team is here. Soldier's not quite ready. Anna's thinking about being ready. Mercy's sort of here. Like, we look at this and, like, your team is almost ready. If you go in, like, a second from now, this is going to be really powerful. If you go in now, this is going to be pretty weak. Like, yes, the distances are that tight in terms of understanding it. These guys aren't a super credible threat yet, your team. They're a threat, definitely, but not a super credible threat. But as this team advances even a little bit more, as your team advances even a little bit more, it's going to become a lot harder for this team to take their attention off of your team to deal with you when you go in. So, like, let that happen. It's still a little early. And this is why they can potentially afford for their Reinhardt, among other people, to turn around to deal with you. The Anna was always going to protect herself. The Zen was likely to help her. But the ability of other people to turn around and help is because, hey, they're not that heavily distracted. Hopefully, you're at least going to get the Zarya in exchange for this. Hopefully, you've at least created a situation where you can get the Zarya. But again, even a second later, and your push is going to be like 30-40% more powerful. Not even kidding. How did Temporal know the team isn't ready yet? I mean, how did I know the team wasn't ready yet? Because I could see from here that the team, like, even on this screen, I could tell that the team wasn't on his screen to the right. And I also had a pretty good feel just from game sense of how he'd walked in and what he'd shown me on the way in of where they were. I mean, my game sense is probably higher level than his, so that's not too, well, my game sense is definitely higher level than his, even without the outline, so that's not surprising. But what we run into here is you just sort of start mentally tracking where people are, where you expect them to be, etc. But if you mean after I showed that blue team was here and red team was back here, how could I tell that blue team wasn't ready? There was a little too much distance for who the heroes were. Cover was a little too accessible. I wanted one or both teams to start their rotations, at which point one or both teams are a little more committed to the fight. Both teams were currently in a place where it was very easy for them to take cover against each other. And if it's easy to take cover against blue team, for example, then you can take cover while fighting the Doomfist and take a quick 4v1 against the Doomfist, which isn't going to work well for Doomfist. You're the Open Division Q Ryan. What rank are you? I've published like way. I've got tons out there on me, dude. I've got contenders finishes. I've got a Liquipedia page. I've got 700, 680, something like that VOD reviews here. There's way more information about my coaching level out there than there is about you out there. So my rank is multiple podium finishes and contenders. There you go. That's my rank. Without money, exactly. I'm going to take money to do coaching at this point for someone who I've already done a freebie session for. Kongaboon says, I have some openings in the next few days, so I'm excited to start using my second pack soon. Yeah, Kongaboon, looking forward to it. Okay. Temporal, so you basically guess your team's move speed or the likely speed that they advance? Yes. Yes, I do. Wow, Temporal laying down the law. I mean, yeah. He's bottom 500 SR, but multiple top contenders finishes. There you go, on Artstorm. There you go. Bottom 500. I actually found a way to go negative. I had to go get a special exemption, but I found this special league, and I managed to get negative 300 SR. It was great.
My ultimate is ready. Watch yourself.
It's like golf, the lower score wins. Owie.
I need healing.
Nanoboost administered.
Don't rush it! I totally get it. I totally get what you felt like. This is just you being impatient again. Like, I get it. You feel like Anna's not going to heal me because she just naded a nanode, so the fight's real, so I've got to go in. Well, two issues with that. A, you're at half health, so no, you don't get to go in. You can go find a health pack if you want. B, if you are going to force your way in, please don't do it from the same direction as your Anna as your Reinhardt. Low ground, same direction as your Anna as the Reinhardt. Not even high ground. Not even an angle. At least give me one of those things if you're going to try to force this engage, especially if you're going to try to force this engage at 60% health. Yeah.
Tuck your funds. Break the payload. Joy.
Meteor strike.
Why though? You actually got this one right. You used your abilities in such a way where you finished with safety. You used all three abilities to get the elimination, but you can easily just drift to the left and be safe up here. You don't need to use your ult here. You have plenty of health. You got some shielding from hitting an ability or two. You can land up here and then just wait for abilities to come back. Why are you forcing your
Meteor
ult?
strike.
You don't need to go for more. You're already up to. Why? I hope you eliminate him with this. Oh, you didn't? Huh, you almost got yourself eliminated and you forced your punch onto a later cooldown than it would have been if you'd just not gone in? Huh.
Though I needed the help.
How far can you get on ladder as Widow with bad aim but doing everything else right? I mean, what qualifies as bad is the thing. Like, everyone's definition of good versus bad aim is going to be a little bit different. And, like, you are going to have to hit some headshots as Widow. Otherwise, the team will figure it out. You can actually, with like terrible aim as Widow, temporarily use Widow pretty well to slowly take space, to threaten enemies into respecting you and giving up space as you take it, and like narrow down the positioning that the enemies have to play on the map, because Widow can threaten so much of a map, and you take additional space. Like, you take space and then your team takes space, which allows you to take more space, and you sort of force them into a tiny little box of air that they can play in. But as soon as you actually miss a few shots, they're going to go, wait a second, we don't actually have to respect you. So you can't actually win a match like that, because even moderately competent teams, and I don't mean like moderately competent like Diamond, I mean moderately competent like Gold, will start going, wait a second, you can't hit shots, and they'll stop respecting you and you won't be able to bluff that anymore. But bluffing an effective Widow can be an effective way to play her for a minute or two. In some situations, not in every situation. So yeah, in terms of how high you could climb with a Widow with bad aim, really depends what you mean by bad aim. Because yes, you do need some level of aim to actually be able to one tricker, if that's what you're referring to. Just improve your aim, exactly. I think he's tilted most with Zarya and really bad bubbles. They do tilt me. I mean, everything comes from her bubble play is the thing. Like, you have to be able to get value out of her bubbles to make her whole snowball work, and her whole snowball is built around a bubble. And that looks like it was in response to his background explains why he judges Winston Anna more harshly, he being me. It's almost a waste not to ask Temporal to teach you how to Anna. I do like my Anna reviews. I do like Anna. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about with Anna. Celeste, peak timing and positioning is worth more. Widow is a tank. Again, that only works until they figure out, like, peak timing is really important, but you do still have to ultimately be able to hit the shot. The other Widow can have better aim than you, and you can absolutely beat them. But, like, how bad is your aim? Is your aim like, hey, I'm standing back here, and I can't hit the headshot I want, but I can still hit this general area? Or is your aim, I stand back here and I hit this general area? Because this I can work with. This, it's just not going to work, even if you're conceptually doing things right. And like this, by the way, is not headshot. This is like, you can probably hit their body 70% of the time with the distance that we're at for how, what I'm drawing here. But yes, you do get, once you get your widows to a certain level of aim, and that level of aim is not extremely, extremely high, you can do a lot to control which widow wins a match by going, okay, let's get the peak timing right. Let's get the angles right. Let's get the when can we peak? What can our team do to enable us to peak? Do we understand when the other widow is going to be distracted? And you can win very hard based off those things, even if the other widow has better aim. Yes. Bad equals you get 1 shot in 5, but that's still not enough to answer my question, Celeste, because you get 1 shot in 5 could be because you're setting up yourself up for poor shots. Like, that's still not perfect. Grandma's Widow pod review is that larger box? Okay. Okay. You're done. You're done.
Your time's run out.
You'd already done your job, but okay. Why would you uppercut into this?
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
What's your plan here? You're not going to use punch. If you use punch, you're feeding. So your chance was just to get left clicks off? You have some of the worst left clicks in the game as Doomfist. Don't bother. No. That was always just going to be you feeding Zen. Which is not something you hear often said about Doomfist. Feeding Zen.
Exposing the payload.
Rising uppercut. I need healing. Watch your backsides.
Why are you uppercutting?
I need healing. Watch your.
You can just wait here and get healed. Probably don't want to uppercut here. Okay. Yeah, like... Yeah. Oh, this one's not hard, Zero Frequency. You can absolutely grab it. I grabbed this one off of the university subreddit. You can absolutely do the same. I'm not hiding this one. It's 3200 Doomfist that posted there. If you had a different coach, you'd have been less likely to play Anna. Fair. And actually, Zero Frequency, Doomfist might make sense for you. Like, I know you play Reinhardt, but you want to play this aggressive style. Like, you still have to get engagement timing right. You absolutely do. But Doomfist does get to play, I'd say, more consistently more aggressive than Reinhardt does. Like, you definitely have to get engagement timing right on both of them. You definitely have to understand, wait, no, take a moment, stabilize here. That's the appropriate thing to do when you've gone up or when your resources aren't where they need to be. But if you really like the heavy, I want to swing, I want to do lots of damage, like Doomfist has those powerful, forceful engages. So yeah, I could see you liking that. Or maybe you already do him.
Meteor strike.
But why though? Oh no, McCree shot you. You don't really want to use the modern version of Doomfist ult, where it's like one of the buffs, the buff that it just got, is it doubles the speed that your cooldowns regenerate. We don't really want to use it unless it's like absolutely critical to us surviving and getting out. We don't really want to use this when everything's off cooldown, because we're giving away what is a pretty meaningful portion of the ult's power now. Oh, you're an ex-Doom one-trick pony. Got it. That makes sense.
Meteor strike. Meteor strike.
The payload is
Oh no.
approaching its destination.
Yeah. That was not a good engage. Okay. I think you said, though, that you knew that you wasted that ult, so it's good that you know. Yep. Just wait before you walk in there, get some cooldowns, now walk in. No, that was still a good pass. You can just wait, like wait for your cooldowns, but also wait for your team to threaten a little. As your team pushes in here, it's going to pull eyeballs and attention from the people who were holding this over to here, and then you can engage from back here, and this is a powerful angle. Having a different angle than your team for your engage is absolutely huge. It makes all of your stuff more powerful.
Easy.
Temporal, do you wear your scarves outside in public? Sometimes. Not in, August, but hey. And do people bow before you when you walk by them? Only the ones in there now.
60 seconds.
Okay. Sure. Don't slam. Don't do it. Congratulations. You got it. And I get it. You've got Nano. This isn't the worst thing in the world to do while you have Nano. You don't really have the health total or the barrier total that I'd like you to have if you're going to stay in with this. You also aren't anywhere close to your ult. But this isn't amazing. You're going to punch him away from your team. Sort of. Really hope you're leaving. No! Punch out. Punch out. Okay.
30 seconds remaining.
You are a better distraction to the enemy team by being alive here and them having to worry about you coming back in 2 seconds than you are staying in and getting eliminated. You really, really are. Like, they don't have to spend mental space on you if you stay in and get eliminated versus if you're out here. You protect your team better. You threaten the enemy team better. If you go, let me use my last cooldown to get out. Now, again, you can break that rule. Sometimes you'd break the rule with Nano. Frequently, you'd break the rule when you have your ult up. But, like... If I had a different coach, I would have been less likely to play Anna. That makes sense. Zero frequency is next. Doomfist, one trick pony. Yep.
10 seconds remaining.
Okay. You see how he did this? Maybe you were trying to do the same thing and he blocked you, but you see how he did this where he's going, hey, his team is engaging from this direction, he's going to engage from this direction. You want to do this thing of your team is engaging from this direction and you want to engage from this direction. You would like to do that. That is a good thing. It's good. Stun him in your own backline. Okay.
Meteor strike.
Sure. It's less good. You're not going to win fighting the front line. On your next ability cycle, you want to end up on truck. End up on truck. Good. And now get the Mega, and on your final ability cycle, you're going to go in for the backline. Beautiful. Hit it. No, it wasn't enough range. You were going to have to punch and then slam. Fine. And it would have been okay to punch then slam, because what happens is you punch slam to deal with her. Uppercut is not enough to get out, but you have this to line of sight around for a moment while you get your punch back, and then you can punch an uppercut out over here. Okay.
Victory.
So, not your best game. I can definitely see, why you're where you are. You do have a lot of things that you do right, but this likely wasn't your best game. So, what we're looking at here in terms of things that are going to help you the most, You really do need to. I mean, I could sum this up as engagement timing, but you really do need to have a little bit more patience, a little bit more of a, hey, I'm not going to just go in before my cooldowns are actually ready. I'm not just going to be like, oh, I want to shoot you immediately because I want to be doing something. No, it's really important as Doomfist that we get that nice explosive powerful engage, and we do that, and that we can get out alive. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to go, okay, I'm not going to use all of my abilities when I'm in. I'm going to have an ability to get out unless I do my ult, but I'm also going to be in these situations where I can just wait. Like, even if my team is fighting, I can wait the extra 1 to 2 seconds for the necessary abilities to come back before I go in. It's totally fine to let my team fight 5v6 for an extra second or two so that I get the tools I need to actually be effective, so that I don't hit like a barely any height slam instead of hitting a high ground slam like we talked about on first, so that you actually have your punch to get into position for a punch slam type thing. Like, this is important. Please, like, study situations before you go in, but what I want you to do most is before you go into fights, I want you to check, where's my team? Is my team going to threaten? And I want you to think to yourself, do I have the cooldowns I need? And if I wait just a second or two, will my odds of either getting an elimination or getting out alive be significantly better? And the answer to both of those questions needs to be yes, or excuse me. The answer to the first one of, can my team really threaten the enemy team? Is my team really ready? Because you can check this before you go in, because you should be going in from relative safety. So you can check from behind cover, look through walls to see where your team is. If they're ready, next question. And that next question is, okay, do I have everything I need, or do I have enough? And if I don't have enough, will it be up in just another second or two? And if the answer to that is it will be up in just a second or two, please let your team 5v6. Please let your team 4v5 for that extra second or two so that you can engage explosively. Like, that's important. And the reason that that's important is the next topic that I want to cover with you is angles. You're sometimes going for angles, but you're not going for angles as much as you should, and you're too willing to engage from the direction that your team is coming from. We saw it quite a few times. One example was when you came down here with 150 health when your Ana was right here and your Ryan was right here. No, we want to come in from the angle. You did some stuff where you came in from this angle, and that was good. The timing was just a little too early, but we want you to more consistently be thinking about those angles. You both want to go, hey, I come in from an angle on the initial engage, and ideally your exits, your hey, I uppercut slam out, or I punch out, also cause you to leave on an angle so that it's easy for you to re-engage from an angle. Like, that's powerful. We want these angles. They make it harder for the opponent to deal with us because it puts them in a situation where they have to really crank their neck, they have to really turn their screen in order to go, oh, we're being pushed from the front by your team. If we turn to deal with you, we just get blasted in the side and it hurts by your team. If we try to do evasive movement against your team, it really doesn't matter to you. You can still see us quite easily. Our movement to you is basically not moving at all, and you still hit us with that powerful slam, uppercut, fist punch, and then punch your way out type thing. Like, that's what we're looking to do. So that's what I'd give you to work on here. Like, the real thing is going to be, hey, have a little more patience. Specifically, have that patience right before you engage, be it a primary engage, a secondary engage, to check where your team is and if they're threatening. That's really not going to take you any time. And do think about your cooldown status and go, if I just wait 1 to 2 seconds, is this going to be a lot more powerful? Because it's totally worth it to wait 1 to 2 seconds for your engage to be 30% more powerful. It absolutely is. And angles more consistently are also going to make your engages more powerful. So that's what I'm going to give you. If you have any questions, you can throw it in chat now. If you guys are enjoying the content, you can like, subscribe. That really does help me out. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below. See what rates look like. See what sort of promos, special events we have going on. Or special event-wise, we do have server scrims coming up this weekend. So if you want to do some pugs, want to see a little bit of what organized play looks like, it's not true organized play, but it'll definitely be a step up from ladder in terms of some level of cooperation, some level of everyone wants to be there and will communicate. You should check those out. Join the Discord, go to the event planning channel, react to the dates and times that make sense to you, and then hopefully we'll pick one based on numbers that works out for you. You can be here and you'll get to enjoy it. But let's catch up if we have any more chat here that we need to. Temporal, what did you study in college? Because I know you went to higher education to some degree, criminal justice. I did, yes, and I studied criminology and criminal justice. I know the legal system fairly well. I know it somewhat from a I know it's somewhat from a lawyer space, but just because I've always been interested in law. It's always been something that, like, hey, I study it. Like, oh yeah, let's go read the Supreme Court case, etc. Let's spend some time on SCOTUS blog. Let's do all those things and some of those classes, because obviously that division in some ways is prepping people for law school, in some ways is prepping people to go out and do policing work with a criminology, criminal justice sort of mixed bag there. But also, you know police, the criminal justice system, etc. I know that pretty well too. And then I did some internship work at both for a public defender as well as for a police department. So I've had my feet in most worlds. I didn't do any work, I suppose, in corrections, but I've had my feet in most worlds, at least to some degree, in the criminology, criminal justice world, all that. Temporal served a few years of hard time. No, no, he did not. Good try, good try. Okay. I don't think I'm gonna answer that one. Okay, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. No problem. No problem. I've been around the block a little for the Overwatch gaming community. I've been around the block a little, Zero Frequency, in terms of age. I'm not 60, obviously, but I'm not 22 either. I think most of you could probably figure out based on what I've given you my general age range there, but I'm not going to give a number because it just doesn't make sense to put that many identifying pieces of information out there. There's already some out there because that's the reality of when you coach in contenders, your name is out there, etc. But that's fine. Temporal is 23. Well, there's a guess. There's a guess. Zero Frequency says 45. Okay. Okay. Neither of you are correct, but hey, YS says 35. Okay. Okay. YS is probably the closest of those, but I'm not going to answer any more guesses with warmer or colder. So there we go. Okay. If you guys are enjoying the content, do like and subscribe. I'll give you just another 15 seconds or so for questions here. Otherwise, we can go ahead and call it there. Yeah, I told you I wasn't telling you guys if you got closer, further, etc. at that point. Like, that really does, have to be how it works. Otherwise, I've effectively told you what it is. What's your birthday, Temporal? You can leave off the year. Not going to. Okay. Temporal, I was doing push-ups yesterday and my wrist hurts now. Any tips on push-up technique? Yeah, I mean, you can actually do a fair amount of variance with push-ups and still get pretty good value out of them. When it comes to push-ups, you can do the standard, hey, you should have your arms shoulder length apart type thing, but you can also do a, more of a diamond type push-ups. Those do have some value. You can do some wider arm type stuff push-ups. Like, all of those do have value, and none of those should really be hurting your wrist seriously. So your wrist hurting, that would strike me as like, unless you were trying to do like diving type push-ups, your wrist getting real pressure and strain on it would surprise me from that. So I would suspect that either that's from something else. Maybe your wrist is sprained, injured, something from something else. Maybe you've rolled it or something. I don't know. But that shouldn't really be happening with push-ups. That surprises me. What's your social security name, birthday, full number, credit card number? Just asking for a friend. Is the friend your bank account? Uh, the birthday scarf. Diamond push-ups, grandmaster push-ups, top 500 push-ups. There we go. Uh, Should someone in their 20s have 30% of their investments in bonds? I wouldn't generally recommend it. No. You could make an argument for it right now, or if you've done your research and you really feel like you're predicting a crash, you could potentially go with, hey, bonds make more sense because bonds become very equivalent to cash, and you can go, hey, even though they're going to do terrible at keeping up with inflation, if you're really predicting a serious crash right now, you could potentially go, hey, you want to be heavy in bonds because you effectively want to be heavy in powder, cash, and you want to buy the crash. That said, predicting a crash is really, really iffy business. It's really iffy business, and usually what happens if you sit too much cash on the side, 30% is a lot, and if you sit too much cash on the side, you're going to be in a situation where you go, oops, if the crash doesn't happen for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years type thing. And even if you realize that it's not going to happen, things stabilized out after 2 years, well, you missed out on a lot there. So I'd say 30% is a lot personally. Again, you guys should get your own financial advice, do your own research, but from my perspective, I do feel that for someone in their 20s, 30% is a lot. If you're in your 20s, you'd be better off going, hey, you can put stuff in the markets. I'd recommend index funds. You can do more into real estate. And if you go, hey, I don't have enough to get together payment for real estate, that's fine. You can invest in REITs short term just to have exposure to real estate and then move that over to investment property that has cash flow type thing. Or then you can also look some into crypto. I would not I'm not going to be like, oh yes, crypto's the best, most amazing thing ever, but all those things are more interesting to someone in their 20s than bonds. I'm not saying you can't have anything in bonds, but you should have a pretty small allocation of bonds when you're in your 20s, unless you have some situation that is like, you're going to be retiring soon. Like I'm talking for the average person in their 20s. If we're talking, hey, no, you're going to retire soon, and you're very close to hitting your your early retirement goals, etc. Like you're very close to it, you could shift heavier into bonds there if you wanted. But that sounds really high for someone in their 20s. Mm-hmm. Blah says I wouldn't put 30% of investments in bonds in my 20s. Right. Buy timeshares. Don't buy timeshares. Okay. What about 20% of your investments an emerging market mutual fund? That can be done. That can be done. Yeah. I don't think that's wild. It depends again on what the rest of your thing. Again, I don't know your specific situation. I'm not really giving you specific advice. I'm just looking at something going, does that sound like a good idea to me? But I am not contracted to you in any way to do this. I am not your advisor. You should do your own research, obviously, before making your investment decisions. But that doesn't sound wild to go 20% in emerging markets mutual fund. You'd have to know the mutual fund. You've got to look at the mutual fund and go, hey, is this oversampling something that you do or don't like? But that's not wild. No, as long as you're covering other territories well there too. Temporal, is YouTube Overwatch your whole career now or just a side gig? Um, I mean, I don't know how to use the word career there. Like, I don't really know about using the word career. Career isn't really a meaningful word anymore. Like, okay, career sort of suggests like it's something that you can do your whole life, that it's going to be like, yes, you're going to go, you're going to do that. We don't really do that anymore except for select professions. There are select professions that you can make a career out of. You could potentially do that. But most people have, 3 to 4 careers over the course of their working life at this point. So that's sort of like, they completely pivot into a different industry, which I've in some ways done now. So like, but I'm not really sure that I think that's the appropriate word. This is something that I would say that this is more than a side gig, Anton, but I'm not completely 100% in this either. And even in this, you'll notice I'm properly diversified, at least somewhat in terms of man counts. I don't like how heavily attached I am to Overwatch in what I'm doing here, but you do look at this and it's like, okay, I have private coaching, I have YouTube, I have Northeastern, like these are 3 different things that look at how things do. And maybe there's a fourth secret thing over here that I don't talk about that is, maybe related to working with teams, etc. Doesn't matter. So like even that, it's like, hey, we figured out multiple ways to make sure that there's something coming in over this, even if no one of them is enough by themselves to be the level of compensation or even combine the level of compensation that I would expect for the number of hours that I put in. But that's potentially fine because I potentially have other streams of income that I don't talk about going on as well. But like is this my career? Is this my career? Is this my career? Again, the word career isn't really right for describing most people anymore. It's really just figuring out how do you make money keep showing up. Yeah. Okay. YS says, what about because you're going to be so busy for the next few years that you won't have much time for active investing, so you just want some bonds for passive income in that time? I would still generally recommend more standard, like S&P 500 index funds. I don't mind the emerging market stuff, but I would say, more standard index funds that are going to give you better returns than bonds make more sense there. Index fund investing is very easy. Like you're going to do some research up front to figure out, okay, which index funds do you want, but then you can just set up automatic you can literally set up automatic investing to happen for you. It's coming out every month, every week, every 2 weeks, whatever you want to set there. And that over the long term is going to average you better. And if you're thinking, no, I don't want that because that's for retirement, like you said earlier, well, retirement's not such a bad thing. But like, that's going to do better than bonds as long as you don't need it for a few years. Like as long as you can go like a decade, that's almost certainly going to. The real number is like over 30 years, it's almost never failed you. But even if you can just be like, hey, 10 years, you don't need it for 10 years. And maybe you might like it in 7 years because you might like to be able to pull it out to put it into real estate for a mortgage, for example, 7 years from now. That's probably fine. It doesn't meaningfully change your life if you pull it out in 7 years or 10 years or 11 years when the markets feel fine for you to pull it out and move it like that. Or if it does take a hit, did real estate also follow that hit and to what degree, etc. And there could be other purchases that you might want in a shorter time frame than that, but there shouldn't be. I mean, there could be. Like, you could go, no, I want to be able to buy a business. I want to be able to do something like that. And I want to be able to do it in exactly 4 years. And therefore, I don't trust the general market. I don't trust, things that reflect the general market. Some of these index funds, I want it to be more stable. And if you have a thing, I'd say 4 years is long enough that you just have to suck it up and trust the markets. But if it's like, no, I know I'm going to buy something in a year, 6 months, whatever, and I have to have the cash on hand for that, yeah, bonds could make sense. Side gig to your SCOTUS judge job. uh, uh, Understandable. Video games, Overwatch is a fickle resource. It's not as stable as like working in law, medicine, lol. Sure. We know about your fourth and fifth secret things. You're on to me. Okay. I still think you could make money putting advertisements on your blind spot shoe. I could. There's a good idea. Does it make sense to buy Black and Decker stock with the passage of the infrastructure bill? Um, I mean, potentially, I'd want to look into that much more closely before I'd give even off the cuff advice. I'll give very, very off the cuff, not advice, but I'll give my very, very off the cuff thoughts. But I haven't really looked at either the bill closely or where they are in terms of their positioning to potentially get contracts there, etc. So I haven't really looked into that. But literally, just like, hey, that question hits me out of nowhere. I would have some concerns about that. I would expect a bump, yes. I would expect a bump. How much of that bump has already been factored in becomes a question. But what you run into is probably not as much as a bump as a lot of people might think. Like maybe it will, but if it does, it'll be just because people think it should get a bump, so people will go buy it. And what I mean by that is the infrastructure bill has some things that we would think of as traditional infrastructure that, make sense for them potentially, but it's also potentially looking at things that are, a little less infrastructure-y. And therefore, regardless of the price tag you see there, and you think, okay, well, they should get, X percent of this should help them, et cetera, it's actually probably lower than you think because of how many things we've considered infrastructure in that bill. But again, I haven't actually read through the final version of the bill because that's really what special interest groups, lobbyists, etc. are for, and I'm not currently being employed to do that. So yeah. Pays good dividends, handles crisis well, and steady appreciation in value over time. I'm trying to buy the world. Yes, there you go. There you go. That's try to buy the world. So yeah, no, that could make sense, and it could make sense especially if you're early to it, because other people will expect it to make sense. I wouldn't expect like, oh, this is gonna get a 30% pop or something from it. I definitely wouldn't go in expecting that, because I don't think that's particularly likely. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. If you're willing to be like, hey, it got a nice pop after you bought it, though, that's absolutely fine. But you're, looking single digits there, perhaps healthy single digits, perhaps very low double digits, but with a decent. Again, I'm not terribly familiar with their stock specifically, but if they pay a decent dividend, you're probably not looking at a double digit boop there, even with the infrastructure thing happening. Again, because in part because that just doesn't happen when dividends are nice on stocks, but also because of what you're looking at in terms of that infrastructure bill is some things that make sense for them and some things that wouldn't have traditionally been considered infrastructure. Okay. Okay. I think that one's going to cover it for now. Yeah, we'll go ahead and call it there. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.